Machiavelli once wrote, "The man who rises while his enemies sleep has already won half the battle." This is the story of Marcus. A 29-year-old man drowning in the noise of a city that never stops moving, yet somehow always left him behind. No savings. No plan. No power. Until one cold morning, something shifted. Not luck. Not a miracle. A single habit, 5 a.m. And what he did inside those dark, quiet hours changed the entire architecture of his life in 90 days. Stay with me. Because by the end of this, you will understand exactly what Marcus did and why Machiavelli figured it out 500 years before any self-help book ever did. Drop a comment. What time are you watching this? Where are you from? Let's connect. Marcus lived in a cramped studio apartment on the 4th floor of a building where the elevator never worked. His neighborhood was loud, sirens at midnight, music bleeding through walls, arguments echoing down stairwells. He worked 2 jobs. Days at a warehouse loading dock. Evenings delivering food on a bicycle through rain and traffic. He made just enough to pay rent, send a little to his younger sister for her school fees, and eat. Nothing more. Nothing left. He was not a lazy man. People misunderstood that about men like Marcus. He worked with his body every single day. He sweated for every dollar. But at the end of each week, he would sit on the edge of his mattress, stare at his cracked phone screen, and feel something worse than being broke. He felt invisible. Like the city was a game everyone else understood, and someone had burned his instruction manual before he was even born. He had big ideas once. In school, they called him sharp. Teachers said he had potential. But potential without direction is just a candle burning in the wind. And the wind in his city was relentless. One Thursday night, or morning, depending on how you look at it, Marcus finished his last delivery at 1 a.m. He was soaked. His knees ached. He had earned $11 in tips. He sat under a bus shelter, watching the city lights shimmer in the rain puddles, and a thought crept in that frightened him. What if this is just my life? Not a question anymore. A statement. A sentence being handed down. He pulled out his phone and typed into the search bar, "How do poor people change their lives?" He scrolled. Most of what came up was noise. But one result caught his eye. An old quote. 5 words that hit him like a hand gripping his collar: "Fortune favors the prepared mind." The quote was attributed to Machiavelli. Marcus had never read Machiavelli. But something in those words cut through the fog in his chest. He saved the quote. He stared at it for a long time under that bus shelter as the rain fell around him. Prepared. Not lucky. Not born right. Prepared. 2 days later, Marcus had the weekend off from both jobs. A rare thing. He slept 14 hours straight. He woke at noon, groggy, feeling like he had stolen something from himself. While making instant noodles on his single-burner stove, he got a call from his neighbor, an older Haitian man named Edmond. Edmond was 62. He sold handmade furniture from a small workshop on the ground floor of their building. Marcus had always assumed Edmond was barely surviving, same as everyone else in that building. Edmond knocked on his door that afternoon holding 2 cups of coffee. "I heard you come in late again last night," Edmond said. Marcus let him in. They sat on opposite ends of the mattress because there were no chairs. "You always moving," Edmond said. "But you going nowhere. I see this in you." Marcus wanted to be offended. But something stopped him. "How do you fix that?" Marcus asked. Edmond sipped his coffee slowly. Then he said something Marcus would never forget. Machiavelli say, "It is better to act and repent than to hesitate and regret." But there is a first step before the action. You must take back the one resource they cannot tax. Cannot steal. Cannot inflate. Time. Specifically, the morning hours. Before the city wakes up. Before the noise begins. That is when a man builds his power. Edmond was not a philosopher. He had not gone to university. He had come to this country with $40 and a trade. But over 30 years, he had quietly built a furniture business, bought 2 rental properties, and paid for his daughter's medical degree. All while living in the same modest building. Every morning, 5 a.m., I wake up. Before the world asks anything of me, before the phone rings, before customers come, before noise, I spend 2 hours building. First hour, I learn something. A new skill. A new business practice. Second hour, I work on my body and my mind. By 7 a.m., I have already done more than most people do all day. And the world does not even know I am awake. He leaned forward and looked Marcus directly in the eye. Machiavelli understood power. Real power is not given. It is accumulated in secret, in the quiet hours, while your competition sleeps. The 5 a.m. hour is your fortress. And no one can take a fortress they do not know exists. Marcus felt something shift in his chest. Like a gear catching. That evening, Marcus sat with Edmond's words turning over and over in his mind. He pulled out a notebook, the kind with the black and white speckled cover you buy for $1 at the corner store. He drew a line down the center of a page. On the left side, he wrote, "Where I am." On the right side, he wrote, "Where I need to be." Left side, delivering food, loading crates, broke, invisible, no skills, no leverage. Right side. One marketable skill, one source of income, one control, enough breathing room to think. He looked at both columns for a long time. Then he wrote one question at the bottom of the page: what would I do if I had 2 extra hours a day? And then, more quietly, almost afraid to believe it, he wrote the answer. Learn to code. He had always been good with logic puzzles. But there was never time. There was never energy. There was never space. Now he saw it clearly. There was never time because he had surrendered the one window of time that belonged entirely to him. 5 a.m. to 7 a.m. The fortress Edmond described. That night, Marcus did something he had never once done in his adult life. He set his alarm for 5 a.m. Then he put his phone across the room, just far enough that turning it off required standing up. Then he went to sleep at 9:30 p.m. It sounds simple. But understand, Marcus had never in his life gone to bed before midnight. His evenings were sacred chaos. Scrolling. Watching. Numbing. Giving that up felt like losing the one thing he had. But Machiavelli's logic was cold and clear: you cannot afford the luxury of wasted evenings when you are building from nothing. The evening belongs to the city. The morning, the 5 a.m. hour, belongs to you. The alarm screamed at 5 a.m. Marcus's first thought was, this is a mistake. His second thought was his sister's voice on the phone the week before. Marcus, I need new textbooks. He stood up. The apartment was dark and cold. He could hear the building settling. He splashed water on his face. He opened his laptop, an old second-hand machine that took 4 minutes to boot, and navigated to a free coding course he had found the night before. The first lesson was HTML. Basic structure. Simple logic. Marcus read it twice. Then a third time. Then he typed it out himself on the screen. His fingers fumbled. He made mistakes. He fixed them. He made more mistakes. He fixed those too. At 6 a.m., he closed the laptop. He laced his worn sneakers and walked downstairs into the pre-dawn city. The first 3 days were brutal. His body ached. His eyes burned. On day 3, he sat at his desk at 5:10 a.m. and had an argument with himself that lasted 12 full minutes. The argument had one side that said, this is pointless, you are too tired, one day off won't matter. And another side, quieter, newer, harder, that said, this is exactly the moment that separates men who change from men who don't. He chose the harder voice. By day 7, something small but undeniable happened. He woke up at 4:58 a.m. 2 minutes before his alarm. His body had already begun to reorganize itself around the new schedule. He lay there for a moment in the dark, feeling the silence of the city, and realized, this time is mine. Nobody is asking anything of me. Nobody knows I am awake. I am building something invisible. Something they cannot see yet. That feeling, quiet, cold, and powerful, was something Marcus had never felt before. It was the first taste of what Machiavelli meant by accumulated power. By week 2, Marcus had built a system. Not because he had read a productivity book. Because he had listened to Edmond. Because he had watched what actually worked on him, in his life, with his limitations. Here is the system Marcus used. Pay attention. This is the architecture of real change. Crossed swords 5 a.m. 6:0 a.m. The power hour. Skill building only. No phone. No social media. No news. Just the skill. For Marcus, that was coding. One lesson. Practiced until he could do it from memory. Tested. Repeated. He treated this hour like a sparring session. Not comfortable. Deliberately difficult. Machiavelli was clear: the man who trains in peacetime does not panic in war. Crossed sword 6 a.m. to 6:30 a.m., the body. A 30-minute run through the neighborhood. No headphones for the first block. Just him and the sound of the city waking up. He noticed things in that quiet: which storefronts were opening, which buildings were under renovation, what was changing on his block. He began to understand the city differently. Like a general surveying terrain. Crossed sword 6:30 a.m. to 7 a.m., the mind. Back in the apartment. Read. Not fiction. Business. Strategy. He found a free digital copy of The Prince by Machiavelli and read 5 pages every morning. The parts he understood felt like keys turning in locks he did not know he had. 3 non-negotiable rules governed the system. Rule 1: the fortress does not negotiate. 5 a.m. is not a suggestion. Not on Saturdays. Not when he was sick. Not when he went to bed late. The only exception was medical emergency. No other reason qualified. Rule TWO: the enemy is the evening. Every night he wasted scrolling was ammunition stolen from the next morning. He cut his phone use after 8 p.m. He slept by 9:30. He treated his sleep like infrastructure. You do not skip maintaining your own foundation. Rule 3: invisible progress is still progress. For the first 30 days, nothing visible changed. His job was the same. His apartment was the same. But Marcus learned to read the internal signals. He was sharper. He was calmer. He stopped flinching at problems. The fortress was being built, stone by silent stone. By the end of month 1, Marcus had completed his first full beginner coding module. His handwriting in his notebook had changed, neater, more structured. He had lost 6 pounds from daily running. He had started to feel something he could not quite name at first. He described it later like this: it was like I had been in a room where the furniture was always rearranging itself in the dark and I could never find anything. Then suddenly I had a flashlight. Things stopped surprising me the wrong way. I started to see angles. That is Machiavellian thinking in its truest form. Not manipulation, that is the caricature. Real Machiavellian intelligence is seeing the board clearly. Understanding power, leverage, timing. Knowing that the man who prepares in obscurity emerges in the light already ahead of the competition. Month 2, Marcus doubled down. He began a second skill: video editing. He noticed that half the delivery gig apps he used had terrible tutorial videos. He noticed that small businesses in his neighborhood had no social media presence. He could not code a full product yet, but he could film and edit a 30-second video that made a business look professional. He offered to make a free video for the Jamaican bakery on his block. The bakery owner agreed, mostly out of politeness. The video got 400 organic views in 3 days. The bakery owner was stunned. The bakery owner offered him $70 for another video. Marcus said, $200. The owner paused. Then agreed. That was the day Marcus understood something Machiavelli had written that now made perfect sense. He who does not lay his foundations in advance may with great ability lay them afterwards, although they will be laid with trouble and danger. Marcus had been laying foundations in secret, in the dark, before 7 a.m., for 63 mornings straight. By day 75, 3 more local businesses had approached him for social media content. He was earning an extra $600 a month. Not from extra hours of physical labor, but from 2 hours every morning building skill with compounding returns. He did not quit his day job. Machiavelli would have warned against that. You do not abandon your position until the new fortress is fully fortified. But he reduced his delivery shifts. He started sleeping better. He started looking different. On the 90th morning, Marcus woke at 4:57 a.m. 3 minutes before his alarm. He lay in the dark and did something he rarely allowed himself: he looked back. 90 days. He had not missed a single 5 a.m. wake-up. Not the morning after a double shift. Not the Saturday after a cousin's wedding. Not the Tuesday his hot water was out and the apartment was cold enough to see his breath. He had kept the fortress. What had the fortress produced? He had completed 2 full online certifications, coding fundamentals and video production. He had 5 paying clients, earning between $100 and $300 per project. He had lost 11 pounds. He had read The Prince 3 times and filled 2 notebooks with strategy notes. He had begun sleeping before 10 p.m. automatically. And he had sent his sister $300 for textbooks, 3 times what he had ever sent before. But the most important change was invisible. Marcus had become someone who did hard things before the city asked anything of him. He had become someone who accumulated power in silence. That morning, he called Edmond. "I did it. 90 days. Edmond was quiet for a moment. Then, "Come have coffee." They sat again in Edmond's workshop, this time on actual chairs that Edmond had built. Marcus showed him the notebooks, the certifications, the client list. Edmond looked at all of it carefully. Then he set it down. "This is good. But you are not finished. You understand that, I know. The 5 a.m. hour is not a temporary strategy. It is permanent architecture. Machiavelli's prince never stopped building his fortifications just because he had won one battle. The man who pauses when he is gaining, that is the man who loses everything." Marcus nodded. "I'm not stopping. This is who I am now." Edmond smiled, small, knowing, satisfied. "Then you have already won the most important war. The one inside you." 1 year after that first 5 a.m. alarm, Marcus had left both warehouse and delivery work. He was running a small but growing digital media business serving 10 local businesses with monthly retainer contracts. He had hired one part-time editor, a young woman from his own building who reminded him of himself. He had moved into a 1-bedroom apartment with actual furniture. He had sent his sister enough money to cover an entire semester. He woke every morning at 5 a.m. Not because he had to. Because those hours had proven to him, repeatedly and undeniably, that they were the source of everything he had built. Some mornings the first hour was used for business strategy. Some mornings it was learning a new skill. Always building. Always compounding. Other mornings, he used that first hour to mentor. He had started holding an informal 5 a.m. accountability group in Edmond's workshop for young men from the neighborhood, all under 30, all in the same position Marcus had been in. He gave them the same challenge. 90 days. 5 a.m. No exceptions. 2 showed up every morning for the first month. Then 3. Then all 4. Here is what most people misunderstand about Machiavelli. They hear the name and they think, manipulation. Cold calculation. Ruthlessness. That is the caricature. The distortion. Read The Prince carefully. What Machiavelli was actually describing was this: the world is not fair. Power does not arrive because you deserve it. Resources do not flow to the good man who waits. The man who prepares in secret, who builds his capabilities while others consume their hours, who treats every quiet moment as territory to be gained, that man does not steal power. He earns it before anyone else was even paying attention. 5 a.m. is a Machiavellian strategy. Not because it is cunning or deceptive. Because it is cold, clear-eyed, and honest about one thing. The hours between 5 and 7 a.m. are the only hours in the day that belong entirely to you before the world begins its extraction. Every hour after 7 a.m., something is being taken from you. Your employer takes your time. Your phone takes your attention. Your obligations take your energy. Your social world takes your presence. But from 5 a.m. to 7 a.m., if you protect it, that time is entirely, unconditionally yours. 1 hour a day is 365 hours a year. That is more than 9 full work weeks. 9 weeks of extra skill building, strategic planning, physical conditioning, and mental sharpening while everyone else is sleeping. Over a decade, that compounds into nearly a full year of pure additional development. Machiavelli built theories of power. You have something more practical than theory. You have the alarm clock. And the hour it points to. Now I want to speak directly to you. Not to a general audience. To you, the person watching this right now. You are here because something in Marcus's story touched a nerve. Maybe you are in the same position he was in, working hard but going nowhere. Maybe you are smarter than your job requires. Maybe you have been carrying a skill you've never had time to develop. Maybe someone in your life is waiting on you to become who you are capable of being. Machiavelli wrote, "Never was anything great achieved without danger." The new order of things is your 5 a.m. Here is your challenge. The same challenge Edmond gave Marcus. 3 steps. That is all. Step 1. Set the alarm tonight. When this video ends, set your alarm for 5 a.m. exactly. Not 5:10. Not 5:30. 5 o'clock, and place your phone on the other side of the room so that turning it off requires you to physically stand up. That physical act of standing is the first victory of the day. It is the fortress gate opening. Do not skip it. Step 2. Decide before you sleep. Decide tonight, before you sleep, what you will build in your first hour. 1 skill. 1 course. 1 marketable capability you have been postponing. Write it in your phone notes or a notebook right now. Not eventually. Now. The Machiavellian move is always to decide before the moment of temptation arrives. At 5 a.m., your tired mind will negotiate. Your written decision cannot. Step 3. Protect your sleep. You cannot fight a war on no ammunition. Set a 9 p.m. wind down. Cut the screen after 8:30. Sleep is not weakness. It is your logistics train. Napoleon lost Russia partly because his supply lines collapsed. Do not let your evenings collapse your mornings. 90 days. That is what Marcus did. Not 90 perfect days, days where his body cooperated and the apartment was warm and the motivation flowed. 90 real days. Exhausted days. Doubtful days. Cold days. Days where the only reason he got up was the fortress, the commitment made in advance to the version of himself who needed him to show up. You owe yourself 90 days. 1 year ago, Marcus had a cracked phone, 2 exhausting jobs, a mattress on the floor, and a city that moved around him without including him. He changed 1 thing. 1 habit. 1 hour. 1 morning at a time. And Machiavelli's philosophy ran underneath every step: prepare in secret. Build in silence. Emerge with capability so developed that the world has no choice but to make room for you. You do not need a mentor to hand you an opportunity. You do not need a lucky break. You need 90 mornings at 5 a.m. Your future self is not waiting somewhere distant and hypothetical. He is waiting on the other side of tomorrow's alarm. He has been waiting every single morning you have pressed snooze. He is patient. He is not going anywhere. But he cannot be built from the hours you have already given away. 5 a.m. is the hour that belongs to the man who will not accept the life that was handed to him. Are you that man? Are you that woman? Then set the alarm. The opportunity made him fortunate, and his valor enabled him to recognize the opportunity. Machiavelli. Comment now, what skill will you build in your first hour tomorrow? I read every comment. Let us build together. Share this with someone who says they want to change but never does. Subscribe for weekly transformation stories. Remember the words of Marcus, 1 year after his first 5 a.m., power is not given. Power is built. And building starts before the sun comes up. See you at 5 a.m.